Dear friends, welcome to Know Thyself YouTube Channel. Good morning. Hope you're all staying safe and keeping well. I sincerely thank all of you who have subscribed to this channel and follow the channel. If you find the contents of the videos uploaded in this channel useful, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification or the bell icon so that you can be notified when a video is uploaded. Kindly share the videos with others or on the internet. In the last episode of Know Your Mind segment, we stated and explained three common unconscious and conscious biases and clarified how we can prevent or minimize their impacts on our unconscious thought processes and conscious decision making. In this episode, we speak about another three common unconscious biases, namely halo effect bias, Horn's effect bias, and height bias or Heightism, and how we can prevent or minimize their influence on us. 10th, halo effect bias. In the 1920s, psychologist Edward Thorndike coined the term halo effect. He used the term to mean developing an overall positive impression about someone because one of their traits or qualities. Hence, halo effect bias consists in focusing on a particular feature you like and impressed by in someone, and based on this impression, you consider them more favorably while ignoring all other aspects about them. Thus, halo effect bias occurs when you think of someone as great based on a particular great quality in that person, overlooking every other defect and fault. Thus, net consequence of halo effect bias is that you unconsciously put people on the pedestal by constructing a positive image of them based on limited information you have about them. So, halo effect bias involves a failure to make a balanced assessment by not taking into consideration those aspects of someone that may prove wrong your positive assessment about the person. You are so caught up in the positive quality of a person that you are blinded to see his negative behavior or misconduct of the past. To give an example of halo effect bias, a hiring manager hiring someone for a job based on he being educated in a prestigious university while ignoring that studying in a high-quality educational institution alone does not determine the person's level of job competency or he or she being the right person for the role selected. You can prevent or at least minimize the halo effect bias. Firstly, when interviewing candidates or examining the applications for any job, you must not only look for one gleaming attribute that makes the candidate stand out from the rest, such as having studied in a prestigious university or securing the first rank in the college, but also consider their experiences, skills, and personalities and compare them with other candidates who may not have had the same privileges and opportunities. Secondly, setting up multiple interviews in different levels of management, which would facilitate evaluating the candidate from various perspectives. Thirdly, diversifying the interview team would lessen the significance of halo around a candidate, thereby help the selection of the right candidate. Being aware of the dangers associated with halo effect bias and taking some of the above mentioned precautionary measures would lessen the impact of halo effect bias in your unconscious thought process and conscious decision making. 11th, Horn's effect bias. Horn's effect bias is the exact opposite of the halo effect bias. Horn's effect bias causes you to have a negative impression of someone based on one of their dominant negative trait or quality. Your undue and unwarranted focus on the dominant negative quality of someone clouds your judgment that you overlook other great positive attributes they possess. It can also include a negative focus on a quality that has no real bearing or impact on what job someone is selected for, such as supporting a different sports team than that of their company. The net result of Horn's effect bias is that it puts unwanted weight on a single negative trait of someone or a behavior that has no impact on their performance of the job, can lead to inaccurate and unfair judgments of their character. An example of Horn's effect bias would be a person newly joined the work team thinks that the constructive correction given by the manager is harsh because of his first impression or gut feeling, which in fact is a Horn's effect bias, that the manager is stern and critical even before he joined the work. The new team member's negative assumption about the manager does not let him see other positive qualities the manager may have. If left unchecked, Horn's effect bias can damage the cohesiveness and trust between the team members, in the process affect the morale and effectiveness of the team. You can avoid or at least minimize the impact of Horn's effect bias, firstly, by challenging your first impression or gut feeling. If you have a negative impression or gut feeling about someone, you must try to identify the root cause, that is, where it is coming from. Ask yourself how you have developed your first impression of someone and find evidence to support or refute that impression based on your interactions with that person. In this way, you can make your judgment about people based on evidence rather than first impressions. Secondly, request others to challenge your negative judgment about someone. Allowing your thinking to be questioned by others would bring a great deal of clarity in the way you perceive someone. This would, besides removing your negative impressions about them, give you the time you need to get to know them so that you can develop a more concrete, realistic, and holistic impressions about them. Being aware of the Horn's effect bias you have towards people and using some of the above mentioned precautionary measures would help you to prevent or minimize the impacts of Horn's effect bias in your thinking and action. 12th, height bias or heightism. Height bias refers to unconscious individual or social judgment placed on persons who are significantly shorter or taller than the socially accepted human height. Though often heightism is not acknowledged as an unconscious bias, it is real and people have views and thoughts about you because you are short or tall. In fact, this bias is deep-rooted and ingrained in the colloquial language the humans use. You look up to one you admire. You look down on people who are of little significance. Someone is praised for their towering intellect, and an achiever is spoken as a person of impressive stature. These linguistic usages indicate the fact that people unconsciously prefer being tall over being short. This fact becomes clear if we take a look at some of the witty comments addressed to shorter people. To mention a few, what's the weather like down there? Is it okay if I use your shoulder as an armrest? And, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to trip over you. Didn't see you down there. Similarly, common reactive comments made to shorter people points to the same fact. A short woman expressing a strong opinion is said to be shrill and lacking presence and would be told not to raise her voice. If a shorter man expresses a forceful opinion, he is considered being indignant and outraged about everything. Or if he speaks passionately, he is often mockingly labeled as having a Napoleon complex. Thus, preference of being tall over being short is an unconscious bias operative in most people. If you take a glance at various researches done on heightism, proof that height bias is real and being tall is advantageous over being short. To mention a few of these research findings, in the job market, tall candidates are seen as more competent. 90% of CEOs of large business firms are of above average height, that is 6 feet or above. Height requirements are routinely specified for jobs which seem to have no need of them. Being tall is related to income and increase in salary. Tall persons are perceived as persons having both social esteem and self-esteem, and so are likely to have better career and greater salary potential. Thus, it is clear that height bias is real, operative in people's mind, and places taller persons in an advantageous position than the shorter persons. The impact of heightism can be prevented or minimized by making everyone involved aware of the discriminative element of this bias, training and educating the staff, setting up objective processes and policies, and debunking the myths around height. We spoke about 3 unconscious and conscious biases, namely halo effect bias, Horn's effect bias, and height bias or heightism. We need to take time to reflect and become aware if any of these biases are operative in any sphere of our life and affect our thought processes and decision making. The greater is our awareness of these biases, the greater can we prevent their influence on our everyday living, thereby make life better for ourselves and others. We will continue our analysis of preventing the impacts of unconscious and conscious biases by elaborating on a few other common unconscious biases in the next episode. Thank you for watching this video. Stay blessed until we see you again with another video.